and it involves an issue that I've dealt with for the medical board before here in California with Molly, and it involves a veteran and got some thorny issues in it, which involved how much notice you have to give to people, how many warnings you have to give to people. And at the heart of this is a guy named Javante Hill, who was a corpsman and apparently went Fleet Marine, was out with the grunts in the field in Afghanistan. And he got discharged and came back stateside, moved to Colorado. And that's where apparently his troubles began, because he claims he smoked some weed, had a psychotic break, shot his girlfriend, shot two of his dogs, one of them died. And so he sued Native Roots, the dispensary group that sold the weed. And this is a kitchen sink type of complaint. I read through this thing and I'm shaking my head. It's like, where in the hell did they get all this nonsense here? But it's a problem I've dealt with my clients before. What do you have to warn people about? And what kind of claims can you make without getting yourself in trouble or protecting yourself? And it's here, the thrust of this is that this guy went, he smoked some weed and he had an adverse reaction, got paranoid from it. Now, this is not unusual. And going clear back to the 1890s, the Indian Hemp Commission report noticed that most insane asylums had hash eaters in them. So the connection between cannabis consumption and schizoid or schizophrenia, other kinds of dissociative diseases or disorders was well known. I mean, it's not prevalent, but it's well known. Okay. Now, this guy claims that prior to that, he'd never smoked pot before. He had this reaction. And so a week later, he and his girlfriend stopped at a dispensary. And I don't think he went in the dispensary. I think his girlfriend went in. And, you know, they wanted something more relaxing, apparently. And so the bud tenders pointed him to some strain of weed that they called indica. And they went home, this guy smoked it and apparently lost his shit and had a complete psychotic break, shot her and the dogs. And, you know, they came and arrested him. And he had no idea during the psychotic episode what he had done, didn't remember anything afterwards, didn't remember anything. And so now they went back and went through this dispensary's a website and all the things they claim that were said, and claiming that was fraud, misrepresentation, that everybody knows that smoking weed causes these cannabis-induced psychotic episodes. You should have warned them. You're a really bad person. I went and looked at the prevalence of this, and schizophrenia is, 1 to 4% of the population, something like that. It's it, if it's that high. But the prevalence of a cannabis-induced psychotic episode is 6 out of 100,000. Mm-hmm. So at some point you have to ask, what do we have to warn you of here? Okay, how much do we have to warn people of? Now, here in California, we have to warn people of the risk of cancer from smoking weed under a thing called Prop 65 here, even though no one's ever shown that cannabis ever caused cancer. You got to put that on the label as a warning. So at a 30,000 foot level here, I've had discussions with my dispensary clients. Be careful what you say to people. Science does not protect you here or help you, because the DEA would not allow science into this. So most everything's anecdotal. And so just be cautious, okay? And what that means, we don't even know. Now, we go down to ground level here, not 30,000 feet, but ground level. This guy was a corpsman. I mean, I was a corpsman in the Navy during the Vietnam War. I was a corpsman during the war in Afghanistan. One of the things I tell you, if a patient takes a drug and has an adverse reaction, dumb shit, you don't take that drug again until you go to the doctor and you find out what was it that caused me to have this reaction, and is this something I should be concerned about, and don't take it. But a week later, this guy, after having what sounds like a paranoid reaction, whatever that's supposed to mean, he smoked weed again and totally lost his shit and started shooting. Okay? Now, at ground level in Colorado, where this came from, there are protections for consumers. Okay, but this guy didn't buy the weed. His girlfriend bought the weed. The bud tender talked to his girlfriend about what kind of strain they want. They have a website which divides the effects of marijuana or cannabis into like 5 different categories. What we used to call, the head pot versus body pot now has gotten divided into so many goddamn, I don't even know where to go with this because it's so hybrid today. I don't even know what you're getting. And I've been to dispensaries and on the QT and talk to bud tenders, and they say shit that they pull right out of their ass. I don't know where this stuff comes from. Edibles that are indica or sativas that without understanding the first pass effect. There's so many parts of this that are just disturbing to me. So as an attorney, I thought I'm going to rip this pleading to shred because this guy's full of shit. I don't think he has standing to bring this. But at the heart of this is a tragedy that anybody who's going to consume cannabis needs to understand. There's never been a direct causal connection between cannabis consumption and schizophrenia, but there is a correlation, okay? So if you're going to be a consumer, you need to be conscious of this. It tends to happen in younger people. This cannabis-induced psychosis is predominantly males, although these dissociative disorders are primarily females. I don't even know how to approach that. But if you're going to consume it, I always recommend start low, go slow, and find out if you have any bad effects. If you do, stop it. Torturing yourself and jumping off a bridge is not worth getting high. Okay, so be careful about this stuff. Be an educated consumer. But for the people who own these dispensaries, wake up. Smell the coffee here. You need to understand your state's rules on advertising of substances. These are nutraceuticals in the big sense because they're not illegal drugs yet. So there are rules and regulations at the federal level and at the state level about what you can say and what you should warn about. You should understand that and bring in counsel if you need to try and educate yourself and your employees of what you can say, what you should say, and what you absolutely shouldn't say. Okay, so this is a warning for anybody out there who is a consumer or who owns these businesses, is that be careful, okay, because people can snap and they're going to come back and sue you and say you're responsible for them developing schizophrenia or doing something stupid when they're having hallucinations. I'm going to throw this back at you because this is a warning. Anybody in the industry that's selling pot, be careful and find out what you can and can't say. I'm going to throw it back at you. What do you guys think about this?
Where was this?
Colorado.
Like Colorado. They said native roots.
Well, yeah. I would say that his lawyers are most definitely going to draw upon precedent set in California where an old girl in Thousand Oaks got off the hook and claimed that cannabis psychosis caused her to stab her boyfriend and the dog to death.
Yeah. How would case law like that play out, Dale, with this?
Well, those are typically criminal cases. And historically, I mean, just in the 1940s, the expert for the federal government in the Marijuana Tax Act testified 4 times in criminal trials where women had killed their paramour, claiming they smoked weed and, it caused them to lose their shit. And this guy said he smoked pot, turned into a bat, grew vampire fangs, and blood dripped off it. And finally, after the 4th of the defendants got off, DA called the federal government and said, you shut this motherfucker up. And they said, you go to court again, we're going to take away your status as an expert. So this has been going on. If it's a criminal case, there's no correlation, okay? Because you can go defend yourself in a criminal case and say, hey, I don't know what I was doing because I smoked weed. Diminished capacity, psychotic event, whatever. This is a civil case. They're seeking damages to this guy for smoking weed that they got from this dispensary. And that's where it gets a lot more muddled. Who is civilly responsible for his psychotic break when the psychiatric community can't even figure out what causes schizophrenia? Does smoking weed cause it? Does having schizophrenic tendencies cause you to smoke weed? Which way does this go? It's a mess, and insurance companies are going to shit over this. They don't know what.
Oh yeah, they are. Like, oh man, you don't even want to bring the insurance companies into this. They're going to screw everything up, even once they think that they have it figured out.
Well, and how do you advise a client? I mean, how long does the warning list have to be? If you get 6 out of 100,000 people to smoke weed and have a psychotic incident, okay, do you have to warn people of that? And how much of a warning do you have to give them?
Yeah, pretty soon.
At what point do you take responsibility for your own actions and your own problems?
Pretty soon these warning labels, Dale, are just going to be QR codes because they're going to be like 36-page documents.
Well, if you watch the news, if you watch TV right now or any media that advertises drugs, there's a laundry list of, hey, watch out for this. You're going to have uncontrolled oily discharge or something.
Exactly.
Stuff.
Causes massive bleeding. Causes bed sores. All of that. Yeah.
Yeah, toenail fungus and halitosis and earwax buildup and all. How much shit you got to put in this? See, I'm an old insurance defense lawyer. I look at this logically. Hey, if you're going to smoke weed, whose responsibility is it to tell you what might happen to 1 in a million people?
Exactly. I agree. It's your own thing, and that's the thing that people need to accept is responsibility for their actions. And I think there's a big lack of that, not just by the general people, but also too by a lot of politicians as well.
Yeah, everybody claims to know what they're talking about, but in my experience, most of them are full of shit.
Yep.
They're advancing their own research project or something like that. And a lot of this research that I found into these schizophrenic situations, they don't hold water when you look at the stats from the 50s when they first figured out how many people in the population get schizophrenia. And you look at it now, and the numbers have not gone up with the percent of the population that now smokes weed. So it's like the only evidence we can really rely on is what was the level of schizophrenia in the 50s when no one was smoking weed. And now when everyone's smoking weed, what is it? And does it go up in the proportion? And if not, I think you're blowing smoke up a lot of people's asses here. And it's the fear inside the medical establishment. Oh, we don't know. We're going to tell you don't do it. Well, that's the problem we had with COVID. They didn't know shit, and everyone was told hunker down. And it turns out you didn't have to do all that stuff. We were just scaredy cats. We didn't want to tell you honestly the risks. Here they are, and you take them.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. You have any thoughts on this, Rochelle or Stone?
I'm surprised that anything from native roots caused anybody. I mean, I'm surprised he even got high from the bud of native roots.
I mean,
that would be a good defense point. I'd want to go check that one out if I was defending him in court.
It is Colorado's Dust Bowl out there. Any thoughts, Rochelle?
I mean, I do get concerned sometimes about legal action being taken against cannabis companies due to this cannabis-induced psychosis. I don't know if it's a thing, but I do think it's a possibility, and I think it could be interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, I think.
It's like cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. I mean, that's been going back and forth. What causes what? And when I go to court, I don't want the correlation. No, I want the cause, and it's not a cause. And I don't even want it coming in front of a jury, because this is all over the damn place. No one can figure out what's causing what. But this should be a warning for people in the industry. At least start thinking about how do you want to advise people. And if you're putting something on a website, make sure that it's not some bud tender thinking up some, puffing language about what this is going to do to you, because that was one of the problems. 5 categories of effects from boof weed out of Colorado. Good luck with that.
Yeah, fair enough. And on that, we're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll right into a commercial, and we're going to be right back.